Hey, welcome back, friends, to the Rocky Railway Bible Adventure. And today we're arriving at the Temple Gate here in Jerusalem to learn about how Jesus gives us power to be courageous and bold. And the way we do this is by trusting Jesus and remembering that trusting Jesus is so important. The Bible verse for today is from Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29, and it says, "He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless." For a moment, we're just going to remember what happened on day 1 and day 2. Mr. Rimmer's going to share that with you, and then I'll talk about day 3.
All right, well, just to review, on day 1, we learned about a man named Ananias who had a frightening mission to complete. God wanted him to visit Saul and to put his hands on Saul and cure Saul's blindness. He was afraid about doing this, but because he trusted Jesus, he was able to put his hands on Paul's shoulder. At that time, Paul was known as Saul, but when Ananias put his hands on Saul's shoulder, Saul changed. The scales fell from his eyes. He could see. He was no longer filled with hatred toward Christians. In fact, he was baptized and he became Paul. And then yesterday, on day 2, we learned about how Paul traveled across the Mediterranean Sea when he was summoned by the emperor to Rome. And he spent 2 years in Rome preaching the gospel of Jesus and spreading Jesus' word to all parts of the ancient world. And now on day 3, we're going to learn something new.
Well, at the Temple Gate, where we are today, there was a lame beggar. And the lame beggar sat by the Temple Gate hoping for coins because he was unable to work. Because back in those days, if you were lame and were unable to walk, there was nothing you could do, no work you could do. So he begged and hoped for some money. And 2 disciples came by, Peter and John. They were going to the temple and they saw this man. And they looked in their pockets and they realized they didn't have anything. And it would be kind of like this. Like, I'm looking in my wallet here. Let's see what I have. Well, I've got a movie magic reward card. I don't know if that would help a lame beggar. I'm afraid it probably wouldn't. My Panera card reward system, I don't think that would help. I've got a coupon, and I've got a receipt and a membership card. So I don't think any of this would help this poor man. And Peter and John realized the same thing. They realized that they really didn't have anything of material goods that they could give to the man to help. But then they thought, what would Jesus want us to do? He would want us to heal this man. And so Peter put his hand out, and the lame man grabbed it, and he said, "In the name of Jesus, get up and walk." And he threw down his crutch, and sure enough, he was able to walk. So that's pretty cool. That's a major celebration, isn't it? So I'm going to use my noise maker here. So the lame beggar was no longer lame. And everybody became very, very excited. And a huge, huge crowd gathered. And so Peter and John took this as a sign that maybe they could take a moment to talk about Jesus and the fact that Jesus would want people to follow his gospel. And so that day, supposedly 5,000 men became Christians. And back in the day, they didn't count women or children, so we're not sure quite how many people became Christians that day. But it was another pretty major miracle if you're talking about over 5,000 people. So I'm going to lower our noisemaker again. Now, always there are bad people that kind of get mad at things. And so many people, especially some of the Roman leaders, thought Jesus was a fake. And they didn't like him. And they didn't like that Peter and John were talking about Jesus. And so they threatened them with jailing and with death. But supposedly, well, not even supposedly, we do know that they let Peter and John go, which was another miracle. They just had to promise not to talk about Jesus around Jerusalem again. And so they left. So another miracle, their lives were saved. They went back to their friends, but they kind of realized that maybe they should have stayed. And so they prayed with their friends for courage and that not to get scared and that God would support them. And so they prayed not only for courage, but they also prayed for their friends and for God, who gave them courage and would help them on this journey to teach everybody about Jesus. So one more little noisemaker blow for day 3. Thanks, everyone.